Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Developer Passport live stream. My name is Lauren McManaman. I am one of your senior developer advocates here at ServiceNow, and we are stoked to be talking about the one, the only flows on the ServiceNow platform. But before we do that, we have a wonderful guest to introduce. Brian, give us your title and your background here at ServiceNow.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Bimschlager. I'm a Director of Inbound Product Management here at ServiceNow. I've been here almost 6 years now. It'll be 6 years just in a month or so. And I've spent my whole time on workflow automation, flows, playbooks, decision tables. It's a really exciting space for me to be in, so I am thrilled to share with what we have on deck in the end of Zurich and in Australia.
And we are excited to have you. Flows are quite literally the backbone of the entire platform. And so it's really exciting to see the continuous improvements that are made over the years and how long it's been part of ServiceNow's brand. So if you're coming on here wondering, we keep saying developer passport and things like that. What does that mean? So in the past, we have done a kind of a debut webinar called Tech Now. And the purpose of that webinar was to cover the features and functionality for developers of an upcoming release. So we name our releases in the past after cities, now, as you can tell, after countries. And so we felt that it didn't necessarily meet the need that it could potentially. In that webinar, we would kind of do a rapid fire of all the content, but people were always asking for, hey, can we see some of this stuff? Can you go a bit deeper? And in the following weeks, we would, but we wanted to create a model that allowed us to do that more quickly and more in time with the early accessibility of the release, aka when it's available on PDIs for you to start playing around with. So, ergo, welcome to the Developer Passport, where me and my colleagues will spend kind of the entire week covering all these developer-specific products in their own dedicated live streams. That is exactly what we will be doing here today. Now, of course, I got to front load this live stream with a couple of advertisements to kind of discuss with you here today. Now, first and foremost is the Knowledge Conference. That is something that both me, my team, Brian, and his team will be attending. So we hope to see you there in Las Vegas in early May. So that's May 5th through the 7th. We've, our teams both work on the production side of these amazing conference events. And so we're very excited for you all to experience what we've kind of got prepped. We have a couple things to plug specifically for Flow Designer at the end, but that is kind of what we're going for now. In addition to this, every year we do a big campaign that's basically like the Yelp review of software. It's called the G2 campaign. And we would really appreciate you as our developer audience giving us that feedback. Not only does the feedback give other potential customers and customers of the like a really good view of how our ServiceNow software is utilized and perceived, but also gives us the feedback to continuously improve it as the years go on. So if you would like to do this, you can either scan that QR code using your phone's camera or go to devlink.sn/G2devpassport to do so. Keep in mind, this is not free labor. You will be receiving a $25 Amazon gift card as a result of doing that. Finally, the big slide that everyone loves to see because it means that cool stuff is happening right after, the safe harbor slide. Yes, early availability of the Australia release is currently available, but that does not mean it's accessible for everybody yet. Please be knowledgeable that things that are showcased in today's live stream include features and functionality that are not live. So please do not make purchasing decisions based off of that future-looking information. Did I cover all, Brian? Are we ready to kind of start what people have come here for?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm excited. So
I could not be more excited as well. So tell me, where would you like to begin here today? Oh, pardon me.
Sorry. In Zurich.
Sorry, there was a little bit of a technical error. Let's roll back a little bit slightly. Sorry.
We are going to start with some very cool functionality that we shipped recently in a Zurich store release. So on our Flow Designer team, we've had 3 big priorities in terms of how we think about our development of new features. And one is embracing this hybrid AI and automation approach. How can we take all the cool AI agent and skill work that is coming out and blend it in with all the low-code automation that we've already known and loved for the past several years? Mm-hmm. Second, we're going to talk about how we can accelerate development time. And then finally, how we can shorten debugging time. We got stuff today that is going to cover all three areas, and we'll dig in first with our hybrid AI and automation.
Okay, we'd love to see that.
Cool. So one of the things that we've been super excited about that launched in December, so this is live now if you have Now Assist for Platform, is the ability to use an AI agent within the context of your flow.
Okay.
Now, super great because we can take an existing flow that you may have already built and you've been using in your business or your custom apps for several years now, and you enhance that ability or enhance what you already have with these new AI agent capabilities. Now, this is great because you can choose to use any AI agent that is available on your instance and define which person should be getting that conversational experience if your agent needs anything else. And one of the nicest parts is when you define the objective for your AI agent, when you're passing in the instructions, you can reuse data pills from all of your previous steps in Flow Designer. So defining this input just kind of works like you would expect with all of your other stuff that is in Flow.
Very interesting.
And we get a lot of cool buttons and switches right here. One is wait for completion. So you could fire off an AI agent and just let it go do its work independently. You could wait until that agent is done for your flow to continue. It's all up to you, especially with execution mode. You could have it run autonomously, or you could have it ask a human for help or for approval as it goes through. Now, one of the biggest enhancements is this expected outputs option right here. And this is where it really hits into the core of Flow Designer. If you're in Flow Designer, you've used Subflows, you've used actions, and you know that outputs are just a very common way to pass data from one step into another. With expected outputs, this actually reviews the agent conversation that just happened and tries to populate these inputs so you can use them in subsequent steps. This is really handy for connecting an agent to a deterministic step or a subflow. You can even see right here in our condition step that I'm reusing my agent output data to evaluate a condition to figure out how my flow should branch after that. Maximally flexible and an excellent way to start to integrate your AI agents with your low-code automation.
Now, there's a couple things I really like about the integration of this from kind of like a legacy perspective. I love that you're already thinking about the fact that, hey, these flows already exist. So how can we seamlessly integrate these new action types into ones that are already existing without any massive pre-configuration changes? And also adjusting that for how agents are now working on the ServiceNow platform. Like you said, a lot of them are autonomous. So they're not necessarily acting like a action typically does in ServiceNow, where it has a start condition and then an end condition, and then everything goes after. So I like that added flexibility. It does look like we have a pretty good question here as well. The question says that this use an AI agent, can it be used with all trigger types, or is there a specific trigger type that you must use to integrate AI agents into your flows?
No, the use an AI agent is just a standard action. So you can include them in flows or subflows, and you can actually build AI agents into Action Designer as well. So we have a use an AI agent step. If you want to build a custom action that calls an agent, you can get as detailed as you want, or put it into any type of flow that you already have.
I like that. You're preaching to the choir as far as, having people create more complicated actions as well. I got to ask, are there any specific ways that you see people really leveraging this? Like, obviously, we want to make sure that we're integrating AI agents in the platform as much as possible. But do you see like specific use cases or specific things that you would advise people to utilize this for?
Yeah, this is a good question, and one that comes up pretty frequently. So this inclusion of AI agents into Flow Designer really stemmed from customer conversations where people were AI curious and wanted to test out AI agents, but they already had years and years of all of this legacy workflow automation. So it was a relatively safe entry point for people to apply these new AI concepts in the context of things that were already proven. So we see a lot of experimentation around handling incidents or working with summarization or trying to have an agent do something right before a decision table. So things can get pathed appropriately. there's a lot of interesting ways that people are applying this, and ultimately it is dependent on what type of agent you're using.
That's true. And that's one thing that we'd love to see feedback on as well. A lot of these AI features, as we grow and change them as a company over time, we love to enhance them based off of how people are most commonly using them. So if you have feedback on these features, please post about that. Please give us commentary to continuously improve this, as you will see some of these features that are in today's live stream are based specifically off of the feedback of our audience. So I do see one question. It's not necessarily related to the specific action, but it is action related. And the question is there any chance that you will be getting an on cancel type of action, like that, something that used to be available in those legacy workflows?
So if the question is like a trigger, so to trigger a flow when something is canceled, probably not on cancel, but we are exploring the ability to trigger flows when records are deleted. So taking some functionality that currently exists within business rules and start to have those triggering conditions brought over into the Flow Designer world.
Gotcha. Well, I saw one of the comments as well was drawing the attention to the fact that we are utilizing Flow Designer or Workflow Studio now within the IDE. But I also remember, based off our prep work, that one of the feature improvements for this is that flows are available to be worked on in another new place.
Yeah. So this is one that we are super excited about. And when we were prepping for this meeting, this was pre-release, but as of Thursday of last week, we can now edit flows with Build Agent. So this is super cool and one of the top requests for Build Agent. And I know later this week, there's going to be a developer passport session where one of my fellow product managers is going to be doing a real deep dive on all things Build Agent. So I won't steal their thunder too much, except to talk about the flow stuff that I really think is pretty cool. So in this example, I was able to get Build Agent just on a standard Australia instance, on a standard upgrade with Now Assist for Creator. And I tossed in a prompt. And this is pretty standard for how you would create an application right now in Build Agent. But some of the stuff that is really cool that we have added in are these skills for Build Agent. So we ship these out of the box, and these are basically the instructions that our team provides to Build Agent to let Build Agent know when to build a flow. What does a flow look like? How should we go about building them? This is really great because as the customer, you don't need to provide a lot of this instruction. You just define what the outcome is for your automation, and Build Agent will know that, hey, you need a flow. It knows how to build it. And as we view more details, there's additional knowledge sources that provide all the context that is needed for each of the different trigger types and core actions that Build Agent is going to need to know how to use. So a lot of this info and context about which action to use and which pattern to apply is already there for you without any need for customization. Now, in this example, this was the flow that I had ultimately created. And once we get down, Build Agent was working a little bit. There's a new enhancement in Build Agent 2 that it will give you a little diagram preview of the flow logic, even before you click to open it in the canvas.
Wonderful.
So what's nice is it's kind of a traditional business process model notation layout, and it's, you know, your boxes and lines, which people can understand pretty well.
Yeah.
But then once you click in here, this is your fully editable flow that has all the conditions already populated with all your data pills as well. So I haven't touched this flow since I generated it with Build Agent. So it's populated everything for me and contextually understands what data I need at this step and grabs it from my trigger condition.
That is radical. You know, as someone that's been on the platform since Flow Designer has come to fruition, it's been very interesting to see how trends have grown with the product, because initially the really hot button topic was low code, right? Like, hey, we want to create an automation tool that utilizes things like natural language to display the work that you are doing in Flow Designer, but you still have to be development minded in the structuring of the logic of the actions and things like that. It's almost the reverse for Build Agent. It takes the natural language, aka like kind of what everything is labeled at eventually as a flow, and then reworks that into the logic pattern and actions necessary. It's very cool to see kind of that now inverse of where we were, 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah. And what is super flexible about Build Agent is this is the original flow that was created for me. And I realized that I actually needed to edit it a little bit. So not only can I build new flows, but if I pass in specific instructions to say, hey, I need to actually update my flow as well. What's nice is, like in this example, it says I want to include a send email step. Well, here's that knowledge source that's already provided out of the box on our core communication actions, and it knows how to use send email. So if I dive into our flow history feature that was new in Zurich and much beloved by customers already, we can see how the very next version of my flow that was created includes that send email step on each of these branches. And those were all added and populated with details based on this one snippet right here. So it's a super powerful way to create new flows and edit them all within the context of your custom applications.
So that was going to be one of my next questions with Build Agent. So also we keep mentioning Build Agent. Build Agent is ServiceNow's on-platform conversational coding tool. So it's used to discuss with and build apps and app features like flows over time. What are the current capabilities of Build Agent for how it can work with flows? You've mentioned how it can edit ones that currently exist. I believe you also said it can create ones. Is there any other functionality that I'm missing in that coverage?
Sure. So right now we can create and edit new flows, like you just mentioned, and it has support for most of our trigger types.
Okay.
What is coming in subsequent releases that you could reasonably expect sometime in Q2 or Q3 would be the ability to create custom actions and use your custom actions and dynamically create new subflows on the fly as well. And then subsequent releases will also be supporting all our more complex flow logics right out of the box as well. Your for each loops, do the following until, if you want to, use data streams to integrate with external sources and bring in a lot of data. All of these will eventually be supported rolling out over the next couple months.
Wonderful. You had mentioned the creation of custom actions is something that was coming, but we have a question in the chat that asks, how does it currently handle existing already created custom actions? Are those still things that are on the roadmap, or is that something that's also included with Australia?
Yeah, it should know your actions that have already been created right now, but it is the ability to dynamically create new ones that is coming in a subsequent release.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Yeah. I want to draw attention to one of the comments. It's not a question per se, but it also talks about how helpful this thing is with documentation as well. Not only the diagrams, but also really structuring out how this flow works. Is there a way through Now Assist to kind of bundle that into like knowledge articles and things like that?
As far as I know, there's not like a direct way from the Build Agent panel to export into your knowledge base or knowledge article. But what I can say is what we have done in internal testing is we've been able to copy content right from here and paste it elsewhere, and it formats as you would expect. So it's relatively easy to create that new documentation by having all the content that you already instructed Build Agent about. Absolutely.
Now, is there any other things you'd like to include about Build Agent, or I can kind of tease out our next segment as well?
Well, there's one thing about Build Agent that I'll tease out. I wouldn't say this is officially supported, but it's something we've seen some promise about internally during testing, and it's something that customers ask us about all the time. The question that I get on almost every single call is, how can I convert my legacy workflows to flows? We've had some success doing it with Build Agent by being able to take the XML file of your legacy workflow and dropping it into Flow Designer. And it's had some pretty good success early on, at least with relatively standard legacy workflows. Obviously, some of the larger kind of spaghetti workflows that are carefully maintained and manicured by the admins over the years, it's not too great with those right now, but I would encourage you to give it a shot, even though it is not 100% officially supported yet. We've had some positive success though.
What a wonderful byproduct of the build agent experience. Because that, I mean, as someone that worked on like the solution consulting side, that talked a lot with customers about flows, especially when flows were very new, that was always the big question is like, where's the big yellow button that I can click that just turns all of my like hyper complex workflows into a flow?
Exactly.
Obviously, we're well, maybe a couple steps away from big yellow button, but that's pretty darn close if I say so myself.
We are exploring the big yellow button to help achieve that. So stay tuned.
There's also an interesting question. It's kind of more of a philosophical question about development now that AI is on the mind of everybody. And the question is, do ServiceNow developers need to be worried as build agents and things like AI are quote unquote doing almost everything? You know, I'll step in and kind of give my best attempt at the answer.
Sure.
The answer is absolutely not. I think that one thing that our team specifically constantly tries to advise is that AI development is used as scaffolding for something that you are the construction manager and leader of. There will never be a point, in my opinion, that development can happen agnostic of developers' insights. Even with AI tools that are building a lot of things, it needs to be done so mindfully by someone that is educated in development. You know, if you're looking at the news in any country on any day, you're seeing the results of people not so mindfully creating applications agnostic of development experience using AI, this unmitigated, just like, oh, we took some things and we output it and it's live. That will never be the pathway that we recommend. So while AI is going to hopefully consistently accelerate your ability as a company to develop, it will always need the management of someone that is educated to do so effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Like at the very top, we talked about the three main objectives that we're really focusing a lot of our initiatives and features for Flow Designer. Our second one was accelerating developer speed. Every team that we talk to, everyone has a giant backlog of work that they're trying to get through. And helping people build that faster is just helping your businesses grow more and achieve the outcomes that you set out.
Now it's interesting. I didn't mean for this to be the tie-in, but the next thing on our list of discussion is actually, you know, we've talked about a lot how AI is used to build things, but what about fixing things that are broken? Can it help us do that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was I think the third item we talked about that Flow Designer is focused on is shortening that debugging time. So we've got two things coming out that are really going to help shorten your debugging time as you get into Flow Designer. And one of them is not a part of early availability for Australia right now, but will be available once Australia is generally available in May. And that is our flow execution analysis. So let's say I have this flow right here, and I'm looking at a particular flow execution. And something went wrong. Something went boom with my flow, and I don't know exactly what happened. Now, if you're upgraded to Now Assist for Creator and on Australia, when this is generally available, we have the ability to have flow execution analysis. Now, this is super handy because it takes all of the reporting data and context of your flow and will pass it into an LLM and give you a structured response back of what the root cause is, where the problem might be occurring, and even steps on how to fix it. Now, this is super handy because every developer that we talk to, and including a lot of the research that we have done, always says this moment in time, figuring out exactly what broke and why it broke consumes the most time. And tracking down those bugs and things like that. So this is super handy. It gives you a recommended action plan here at the bottom as well. And what's also nice is you can reanalyze this flow at any point. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, why do I need to reanalyze my flow? It already failed. Like, it should be over. Well, we see instances all the time of cases that come in that say, hey, I'm not sure why my flow is waiting, or it's paused, or it canceled for some reason. Now, waiting and pause might be situations that eventually resolve. So you might want to get an analysis on your flow of why something is stuck. And then
True.
if it succeeds or fails, you want to rerun that analysis to get a better understanding of everything that actually happened.
Very true. Now, one thing that comes to mind just architecturally is the concept of subflows. So if you are running kind of like the parent that calls a subflow,
Mhm.
will it factor in the Russian nesting dolls of the other flows inside of it?
Yeah, to a certain level of depth, yes. And that is one of the reasons we wanted to support this. Now, we've seen some customers who are power users of subflows, and we've seen the Russian nesting doll of 50 subflows deep. That's not the extent that we are supporting this, but we'll support a couple levels down to figure out what the root of the issue is.
Wonderful. And also, is there a cap on how many times you can? And I'm just, I love,
Yeah.
like seeing the edge cases. Like, can you do it like twice, or is there any cap to doing it?
There's no cap on this. We do incur assists every time you regenerate a new analysis. So that's your choice or customer's choice as you get in and start exploring this.
Very interesting.
Now, one of the next steps for us as well is we plan to enhance this analysis a little bit. So there's a cleaner tie-in with your execution analysis and build agent.
Okay.
So in the future, the plan is to say, hey, here's my plan of how I need to fix this, and click the go button, and build agent is off to the races.
That's very interesting too. Like, I love seeing like how these, they become enmeshed over time as both continuously improve.
Yeah.
One question that someone mentioned in the chat is, does this work regardless of whether you were running a flow analysis on development instances or in production? Like, obviously you don't want that to be the case, but things can fail in production too. So is that limited?
Yeah. No, you can absolutely do this in production. And this is actually one of the best bonus features about this is, ServiceNow normally has guidance to say, let's turn reporting off in production.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is to save disk space. And, if something goes wrong, you can investigate how that flow is put together in subprod. When we conduct our analysis, we're not only taking into account the reporting data that comes with your flow, but we also look a little bit deeper at the audit and log level. So we can still provide an analysis on like what happened or what a root issue might be, even if you're not collecting your reporting data.
Based off, this is not an audience question, this is a Lauren question. Based off of the testing of this feature, I'm just curious, is there a common root cause problem for the majority of flows that we're testing on this? Like, is there a couple of big like problems people should at least keep their eyes open for?
The ones that we see popping up all the time that we paid particular attention to are things like connections. For example, you're trying to integrate with some external service, like you might be trying to automate a posting of a message to Teams, and you're using some connections and credentials that might have an expiration date. Well, credentials expired and nobody realized it, but now it's causing all of your downstream flows to fail whenever they try to post to Teams.
Yeah.
Discovery of exactly why your Teams action is suddenly failing can be much faster now with flow analysis rather than having to dive into particular action logs.
Yes. And one thing they could dive into as of the Zurich release to see like where could something have broken are the flows history. So that's my very subtle transition to the next topic.
Yeah. All right. So in flow history, it came out in Zurich, and it was a great way to see all the different times a flow has changed.
Yes.
So over time, I could see that this was my initial benchmark flow, and my colleague Stravia updated it over time, and we can see how things have been automatically saved. Now, if something has broken and this flow used to work, sometimes clicking through each one of these versions can be a little bit difficult to figure out exactly what changed.
Of course.
So we are shipping in Australia, available with early availability, is the ability to compare your flow versions.
Let's go, Brian. This
Woo.
is A plus. This is so A plus. It's the most commented thing I've seen on LinkedIn thus far about our release. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. One of our MVPs was mentioning it. A couple other people were mentioning it, like, yes, we get like the GitHub experience of compare and contrast. It's awesome.
It is one of the, aside from converting legacy workflows to Flow Designer, comparing versions of a flow is the undisputed number 2 request that we hear from people.
It's off the list now. Heck yeah.
It is off the list. So the best way that I can explain it is that it works like you would expect it to.
Yes.
So we can choose which version you actually want to compare on the left and right hand side. And we use color and icon notation on here to let you know things that have changed. Like in blue is, oh, well, that's not fun. Got a little glitch in our demo, but blue is going to show values that have changed within the same action. So if this was working and we could open it up, we would see that the condition on the inside of this action has a value that has changed that we are listening for.
Got you.
Now, the other nice thing is we use green to show content that is new relative to the version that you are comparing it to. And we'll use red down here to show something that was removed from a previous version. Now, all of this is a really super easy way to compare something that was published with some new proposed changes. And when we did some early design testing with customers on this, the top use case that came out was admins on distributed teams, where they might be enabling younger or newer developers on their teams to build out some new automation. And ultimately, it gets to a human review or code review for the admin. And now they can much more easily figure out what exactly did this person put in to this flow, what changed from the last time this was actually published. So early reviews are in, and it's very positive. And I'm very, very excited to hear any feedback from anyone who's watching as you jump in and test it out.
And one of the coolest things too, I mean, obviously we love talking about AI, but it is gated behind, some paywalls to some extent. This, I've heard though, is not.
Yep, this is right out of the box. As soon as you upgrade to Australia, you don't need any additional plugins or licenses. This is just part of core Flow Designer.
That is just
so
wonderful.
Access for everyone.
And also looking at the screen as well. So as you are looking at the comparison, you don't have to necessarily close this out to compare different versions. There is the ability at the upper bar, yes, exactly, to select which are your points of comparison based off the flow's history.
Yep.
Very cool.
And this, yep. So that's flow history comparison. We're super excited.
And again, I want to reiterate, this is basically based off the feedback that y'all have provided. Obviously, this is a natural extension of adding flow history in Zurich, but this is massively due to how much of a quality of life improvement this was asked of by our audience. So again, please always be vocal about where you think the ServiceNow platform should go, because people are listening to that feedback earnestly.
Yeah.
Now, it seems selfish. I don't want to be selfish because you've just done a wonderful presentation, all the stuff that is literally still not even out yet. But I have to ask, are there any teasers you can provide, perhaps even in the later Australia store releases or beyond, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. So, we talked about our big 3 things that we focus on. And one is embracing a hybrid AI and low-code automation approach. Yes. One of the things that we are excited to introduce in the coming months is the ability to use your subflows and actions as MCP tools on ServiceNow MCP server. So once you get into your instance and you're creating your own MCP servers, you can hook up all of these actions and subflows that you've been building over the years to make them discoverable as tools for MCP. It's going to unlock so many use cases for teams building internally and externally as well.
Very, very.
And there's one more that's coming. You might hear more about this one in May, especially if you are coming to Knowledge. But we are finding some ways to make implementing and decisioning on approvals much faster. So we know that getting approval logic built into your flows can be tough. And sometimes there's a lot of back and forth with someone on your business team who's defined the rules, and the developer who's actually got to build out the if conditions and the pathing. We've got something coming that should help quite a bit.
Because that's always, even as a developer, I remember that being one of the most frustrating elements of building these flows is like the hierarchy of approvals, and if this person can't do it, then this person, but it was hard coded in that person. So when they left the company and quit, it was like it was just like an absolute nightmare getting those darn approvals situated. So
someone leaves the company and now we need to get something back into a developer's queue that already has a whole bunch of stuff on it just to change who the one person is that should be approving something. It's hard. We've got something coming that should help. So
one question we have is, can you elaborate a little bit about the MCP server and kind of define what that is?
Yeah. So ServiceNow MCP server came out, I believe, in December or January, and it lets you create an MCP server on a ServiceNow instance, and it comes with all the authentication that you would expect if you're trying to integrate with a ServiceNow instance. This is handy because you could add that MCP server to a tool like Claude or MoveWorks if you wanted. And as you type in requests to your LLM, it will dynamically be able to understand if that request maps to one of your subflows or actions on MCP server. So common use cases that we expect to be seeing from this is a lot of the communication or sending data to external instances by using things like Workflow Data Fabric that are already woven into your actions and subflows are now suddenly going to be much easier to access when you are working with AI agents on other platforms.
Wonderful. An additional question is flow analysis part of Build Agent, or can it be operated even if we are not subscribed to Now Assist? I believe the answer is no. It's not part of Build Agent, but it is part of the Now Assist for Creator, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Wonderful. If there are a couple more questions, I encourage you to put them in now. I'll transition to a couple of very slow recap elements to get those last remaining questions in there. Because honestly, Bryant, you did a phenomenal job. We've covered a large amount of space here in today's conversation. So I'm going to switch over back to my slides for a quick summary of that. Wonderful. Now, obviously, no need for safe harbor anymore, but here is a nice summary slide exactly of what we showed. So if you'd like to kind of take a screenshot of that and show that, for safekeeping, now is your time to do so. I'll give you 3, 2, 1. Okay, back to us. If anything, too, it really clearly showcases also what you can anticipate to use on your PDI. So if you're looking for the things that Brian covered today, you can utilize flows in Build Agent on your PDI to a limited extent. Obviously, you can't just keep churning and burning all those token credits, but you can test it out. But much more freely, you have access to that flow history comparison. So would love your feedback on those two things. Beyond testing this out on PDIs, I have to go back to the fact that knowledge is on the horizon, and there is some content that you and your wonderful team and my even more wonderful producer, Christy, behind the scenes have been collaborated on. So tell us a little bit about your lab coming up here in May.
Yeah. So the lab that I am going to be leading at Knowledge this year is all about that first objective that we've been targeting with Flow Designer, and that hybrid approach to integrating AI into your flows and playbooks. So we're going to cover all sorts of things, starting with a playbook that contains subflows and actions, and we will show you how to weave in your Now Assist skills to make LLM calls, as well as introducing AI agents into your playbook and flow, and then ultimately how to make your playbook agentic with our new agentic playbook feature that came out in December.
A+. And so that is CCL 6730. If you're looking for it in the catalog builder that's coming out, it's called the Hybrid Handoff. I could not recommend it more. Every person involved is a superstar. So definitely don't want to leave that one on the cutting room floor. Additionally, we are kind of still at the beginning part of our Developer Passport week. We have already had a phenomenal live stream done by Christy and Jason and Taylor on Playbook. So actually it plays very well into today's conversation about flows. That is available as a video on demand on our channel currently. And we have a huge amount of content coming up, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow is our double duty day. Earl's pulling the double shift to cover everything about experiences, both with Maria Gabriella and with Brad Tilton. So if you can't make it at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, be sure to be there at 12:30 p.m. They are differences in what they're covering, but everything will be made available as a video on demand. Now, there are a couple of remaining questions I definitely want to cover. One of which is, while the AI agent does query the audit history and information, how is all these things kind of dealt with internally? So there's no performance impacting the platform.
Yeah. So for flow analysis, this is done via a standard LLM call. So we have optimized it so it gets queued up appropriately, and it's designed to not bog down your system. Also, when we do these, in our experience, when we were testing out flow execution analysis, they tend to be more ad hoc. So these are not things that are proactively being triggered every time one of your flow executions gets canceled. So you are in control of when it runs.
Wonderful. An additional question, does the work debug analysis factor in previous execution errors on the flow? So if you're fixing this in real time, is it factoring in the fixes that you've already provided?
So for this release, it takes into account the current context record. So the current flow execution. But you might be sneaking a peek at our roadmap a little bit there.
Okay, that's nice to know. Nice way of kind of inadvertently teasing stuff that's coming out as well. It's more of a comment than a question. It's about the adding annotation feature in the flow history, like having live documentation. If used in that way, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, so I know we have annotation, obviously, on our subflows and actions to help people understand exactly what certain actions do within the flow. But as you dive into flow history, you also have the ability to add a little bit of a explainer or a label onto your particular flow versions. We have found it super helpful when people activate a new version of a flow. They'll add like a little label that says what the changes were relative to the previous published version, which saves a little bit of time of having to click through a variety of different features. We also have the ability to star your flow history versions. So you can also filter by your favorite versions or the key ones that you have saved along the way.
Because in my experience, that's not usually the one I'm currently working on. It's usually the one like 8 or 9 versions behind, and I've goofed it up along the way. So that's good to know. Brian, are there any other additional comments that you'd like to give about flow or anything else? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can now. It cut out a little bit.
No worries. It must have been a little bit of lag. I just asked, is there any other final words of wisdom you'd like to provide us before my final call to action?
No, other than I am super excited to hear how people test these out and use them. If you have any comments, you can find me on the unofficial ServiceNow developer Slack, on Reddit as well. Or you can find my contact info on community, and I'm always happy to discuss how you're using it.
Amazing stuff. I just saw you on LinkedIn this morning commenting on people's posts. So we really appreciate how active you are in the actual usage of your product. It really, truly means a lot. And in that last push, please, please, please upgrade your PDIs or get a brand new one in the Australia version. If you go to developer.servicenow.com, you can get a personal developer instance or a PDI in the most recent version. Thank you for adding that banner as well. You can do so if you have one already. They can also be upgraded. So sometimes it'll show like, oh, we're all out of Australia instances. You can always upgrade one as well. So you can do that by managing your instance, clicking the button, and then clicking the version that you would like to have. Thank you all so much for joining us here this morning. It really, really gives me tremendous joy to see such interest in the Flow Designer and Workflow Studio and all the different flow attributes that we're now calling this.
Yeah.
We hope you join us for the remaining content this week. And please also be sure to comment on the blog post to get your badge for participating in the Developer Passport. Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.